going on, guys? Unofficial Star Wars here. Hope you're all doing well. And in today's video, we have our episode 12 breakdown here for the Bad Batch, titled Rescue on Ryloth. Of course, there are going to be spoilers here for the Bad Batch, so click off now if you haven't seen it. But without further ado, let's just jump right on into today's episode. Of course, was absolutely amazing. We had some very surprising turning points, quite honestly, in this episode. And of course, we got a good amount of action within the episode as well, with appearances of really all of the different characters that we have presumably seen throughout the Bad Batch show. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into it. Of course, as many fans had predicted with last week's episode having to take place here on Ryloth, it didn't really feature all that much of the actual Bad Batch, mind you, the show being called The Bad Batch. So many fans, including myself, had presumed that that was more or less kind of a quote-unquote set-up episode there for what we would see in this upcoming episode, and maybe even episode 13, 14, and 15, and 16 at that there are going to be 16 episodes here for the first season of The Bad Batch. More in depth there, furthermore, of course, as season 2 of the show here is presumably up in the air as of right now, more or less maybe playing off into what we might see for the finale of season 1. So that there is just kind of up in the air, but presumably off of what we saw here in this episode here, it's kind of maybe safe to say that there could very well be more episodes and more seasons to the Bad Batch and continue on this legacy and this show of a season 2 for the show. Of course, that there is not actually confirmed, so just take that with a grain of salt. Now into this actual episode breakdown, of course, taking place back again on Ryloth, we got some very interesting encounters here, as it does seem that Crosshair grows more and more darker in some ways and in some tones, and more closer to his more or less really just being more into the overall Empire and wanting to serve the Empire rather than joining his brothers once again. Furthermore, of course, we had made our theories here on the channel here of if Crosshair's inhibitor chip actually was burned out of his head there, or some sort of way there, maybe it was malfunctioned or whatever the case may be. We had our theories and predictions here on the channel as if maybe his inhibitor chip was burned out of his head when he was hit with the cannon from the Venator, the Venator engine there, and it had left some very severe burn marks there that led us to kind of believe maybe he is going to rejoin his brothers there. And as what we actually saw here in this episode, it just doesn't seem very likely. And even if that is the case, maybe his inhibitor chip was actually, I guess, affected in some sort of way, and maybe he is going to be coming back to his brothers, or maybe just not affected by the inhibitor chip to begin with in that kind of manner. It just doesn't feel like he would ever really come back to the Bad Batch. It just feels like he has too much of a hate for them, and there's really no reason behind that all that much. I mean, if he had some sort of hate, I guess, behind them during the Republic days, why would he be with them to begin with? Why wouldn't he just, I guess, kind of turn his back against them and kind of leave them, I guess? And of course, he is controlled by the Republic and all of that, but he very well could just leave them if he really wanted. I mean, we have seen clone deserters before, but that is really besides the point. Now, talking about Clone Commander Hauser throughout this episode, of course, he was a very interesting and huge fan favorite, of course, in the previous last week's episode there. Just in his first introduction, everybody loved him, including myself, and everybody thinks he's absolutely amazing and absolutely awesome, and really hope to see more of him. And of course, we get to see more of him, and of course, I was at the edge of my seat there for a few moments there towards the end of the episode, where he actually comes out to confront his clones and even begin some sort of clone uprising here. Of course, this here has been a huge theory in the Star Wars community ever since the episode 1 and premiere of the Bad Batch back on May 4th, of if we're going to be seeing a clone uprising, and that very does seem to be the case here. That is something that I very well do think we could very well see here by the end of the season. And then moving on furthermore into the episode, what we saw really with that whole relationship between Hera and Omega, I really do think, and I know I could be overthinking it and overanalyzing it, of course, and overpredicting it, over-theorizing it, whatever you want to say, that I think that Hera and Omega will very well appear in the upcoming, I guess, quote-unquote, Mandoverse, is what we've been calling it. So in this case, it would be for the Book of Boba Fett in some sort of way, and maybe even see Hera here appear in the Ahsoka Tano show as well. I think might be more reasonable, at least for her character. And of course, I do think we're going to get some sort of introduction here for having Omega appear in the Book of Boba Fett. Of course, it is coming out later this year of 2021, this December. And then before I do forget, we're going to have a whole separate video going more in depth here and kind of reanalyzing and updating here our clone theory of a clone uprising here, as of what we had saw here in this most recent episode of the Bad Batch. So to be sure you are subscribed to the channel and hit that notification bell and stay tuned for that for when that video does come out. Now, another thing that we interestingly only heard about, only for a few moments here really throughout this episode, was the whole idea of Senator Orn Friedta, the big fat dude that was presumably killed in the previous episode of The Bad Batch. But that very well may not be the case, as we did hear that he is quote-unquote recovering from General Rampart, but that very well couldn't be the case as well. I'm not completely sure where or when it's covered, but it is in one of the books or comics that he does actually have some sort of, I guess, canonically death there of Orn Friedta actually dying in some sort of book or comic about Vader. I'm not completely sure on which one it is. There's a lot out there, and as you guys do know me, I really am not too much into the books and comics of Star Wars. So with that, just kind of leaving it at that, he is presumably still alive according to at least the Empire, but they have been lying about a few things there. Of course, that whole assassination attempt, quote-unquote, of this actual Orn Friedta, and that actually being caused from the Syndulas rather than the Empire and Crosshair. Something else I think we're beginning to kind of closely and more subtly start to see here with the overall Bad Batch is them really working towards, and with the actual rebels there, and really having some sort of greater cause other than just wanting to get paid for their efforts, much like we see with a lot of bounty hunters here in the galaxy. They really want to work towards something greater there, and with not accepting the offering of rescuing the Syndulla parents there, and just, you know, turning down those credits and everything, that they want to work for something greater and something bigger that's bigger than themselves. So that being said, that I very well do think they could maybe kind of lead on to the Rebel Alliance there and really begin helping out the early Rebel Alliance and working with them and all of that type of stuff. Now, another thing I really haven't talked too much about the last time we did actually see this, but in one of the more previous episodes of The Bad Batch, when we did see the Martinez sisters, we did get a glimpse there at the robot, Ahsoka Tano's Jedi kind of astromech there, R4, which was a little bit confusing because in one scene it was R4, and of course with the red type of color there going, and then in the next shots, only taking place a few, minutes, seconds at that, later it was a completely different colored astromech droid, so that kind of leads to the question of what exactly went on there. As of right now, we do not think that that animation has been changed or anything like that, and that might just how it's supposed to be. Maybe it is supposed to be a completely different astromech droid, or maybe more or less hinting at the idea of R4 getting a repainted job. Either way, that year just kind of had a lot of confusion there, and that's something I might talk about in a future video here on the channel. But aside from that, a lot of things that I have been hearing here from the Star Wars community is that while we are on this Imperial base here on Ryloth with Chopper there kind of hiding amongst the other astromech droids there, some fans had maybe pointed out a astromech droid that looks very familiar to the R4 droid that we did see in the Martinez sisters episode there, so that there's just something that's kind of up in the air. That whole kind of thing that's going on with that droid is kind of confusing, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, so let me know what you guys think is kind of going on with that whole droid. Is that just an animation error, or what could the case there be going on there with that droid? Do you guys think we're going to be seeing more of R4 here, presumably in the Bad Batch? And furthermore, let me know what you guys think about this one in the comment section down below. If R4 is still out there, and seeing how long astromech droids and all droids really in the Star Wars universe live up to, which is kind of infinity and kind of forever, do you think we could very well see the reunion here between Ahsoka Tano and R4 and the upcoming live action Ahsoka show? Let me know in the comment section down below. Other than that, this was a very fun and exciting animated show here for the Bad Batch, or episode rather, I should say. Of course, it had much action there for the episode here, and it really felt very Star Warsy, and I liked how they kind of almost bring back that whole arc thing and arc system there with the different storytellings that we saw in the Clone Wars show, with every 3 episodes kind of being a different arc and focusing on different characters. Is something a lot of fans, I think, are wanting to kind of be brought back there for the show. More or less, the show with its different episodes have been referring more or less back over to how Rebels is kind of planned out, which is each and every episode just kind of doing their own thing and going on and on. But really, a lot of fans, I think, really do prefer those arc type of episodes that we saw in the Clone Wars. I really don't mind. I think it's doing fine with these kind of Rebel, almost laid out episodes, with each and every episode kind of just doing their own thing, and then having some sort of big build up there for the end of the season, of course. Anyway, like I had mentioned, it was very fun and action-packed episode here, lots of action, and we actually did get to see the Bad Batch more in this episode, which was very exciting. And furthermore, to kind of speak here lastly on the very last thing here that we did see for before the end of the episode are here with General Rampart and Crosshair. We do get to see how General Rampart kind of responds to the actual Bad Batch being this much of a threat to the Empire and wanting Crosshair to go after them. We do see Crosshair having that more buildup and more potential and more desire to go after his fellow brothers of the Bad Batch and wanting to really take them out, as he does request a permission to kind of go off on a whole side mission here, presumably of what we're going to see here for upcoming episodes of the Bad Batch, and really the remaining episodes of the Bad Batch I do think is going to be very action-packed here with Crosshair versus the Bad Batch. Aside from that, having Crosshair versus the Bad Batch, I also do think we're going to really get more and more into the whole clone uprising here and seeing more Hauser. I do definitely think that Captain Hauser will return here in future episodes for the Bad Batch. Fingers crossed, he's definitely a fan favorite out there, guys. Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions on the newest episode of the Bad Batch in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear all of your theories and suspicions here for future episodes of the Bad Batch, and really your overall opinions on the newest episode. I love to hear, so let me know in the comment section down below. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy it, as it really does help with the channel, and check out Instagram, Unofficial Star Wars, for more Star Wars related content, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you guys for all the love and support here on our YouTube and our Instagram. It means the absolute world to me. Thanks so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Peace out.